Hey everybody, it's Tim here. Just wanted to kind of go through quickly while the still have a little light and discuss some of my tomato plants that I have growing for this 2019 spring season. This is my Hawaiian Punch. It's a cross between Woolly Kate and a Hawaiian variety of tomato. Very interesting. It's got some hairy leaves to it. Some of them, and some of them a lot less hairy. I've got some dwarf tomatoes here. This is Chocolate Lightning, Kiwalo, one of my favorite Hawaiian tomatoes by Gary Cass. I've got Artsy over here. What's neat about this is these were extremely variegated last year, and looking at this one here, I see some of the variegation, but the other ones don't really have it yet. So it'd be interesting to see how that gene actually does work. But if you're interested in some of that variegation, look at this Pico's Pride. It's a potato-leafed variety tomato. Some are, you can definitely see, are more extreme than others. And that's another reason why I'm confused about these ones. But we'll see, like I said, next as the season progresses, if they start showing some of that extreme variegation on the leaves. This is Anahu. This is one of my favorite Hawaiian tomatoes. It's really got good disease resistance, and it's kind of like my standard, the one I measure everything to. Not necessarily, I mean, flavor is good, but it lives every single year. Knock on wood. I've got more dwarf tomatoes here. This is dwarf Firebird Sweet. These are more Hawaiian Punch tomatoes. I got 35 altogether. Found one that I was really, really impressed with last year, and I want to keep it going and see what happens. So, you know, there'll be some segregation in genes still, but it'll be exciting to see if we get the same thing or what other surprises we may get. Done some Sun Golds crosses. This is Zudi 2 right here. Very similar to other variety, or like the Sun Gold in the sense of shape, color, and for me, flavor. But most people would say that it's impossible to get it just like it. Hilani, another Gary Cass Hawaiian tomato. Some tomatoes that are about to come up this weekend or this week into their 4-inch containers. We've got some, here's an interesting thing here. The dog destroyed a couple of tomato seed envelopes, and I couldn't tell what was what, so I didn't think any of the Mary Joes got in. But Mary Joes are potato leafed. These are Arky. These are supposed to be regular leaf tomatoes. So it was really interesting to find this, and it was easy to spot the Mary Joes that got mixed up. So funny how 4 and 4. But another thing that's interesting about this is a indeterminate tomato, whereas this one right here is a dwarf Arky. So that was a find this year, and so if this one's interesting, then maybe Craig LaHoyer might want a piece of that, or want some seeds from that. These are Zudi 7s. This was an interesting find. This is a dwarf I found last year. Large brown or purple tomato. Really good flavor. Sun Gold related. Found, let's see what I got here. These are Colombian wild tomatoes. So very similar to the Everglades tomato. I want to do a comparison this year to see whether or not they are the same or whether or not there's something that's extremely different. I got these from Joe Simcox. I grew the seed out, and these were some of the seeds I had left. So I've got a couple of plants to play with. I've got Zudi 5 here. Interesting, I found a few dwarfs among this group, along with some regular indeterminate tomatoes. Red cherry, or yeah, red, green, I don't know, I can't remember if it was red striped or green striped, but it was striped and it was green and red. Sprite, one of my favorite little snacking tomatoes, got an awesome crunch. Gene Wang, this is a Anthe family dwarf tomato. Some of them are dwarfs, some of them don't appear to necessarily be dwarfs, but it's actually weird though, because it's got a nice strong trunk to that one, but these ones look like more of a dwarf than the others. But it'll be interesting to see. They should be yellow with a purple shoulder to them. Then we have Khaki Flask. These don't appear to have any dwarf to them. Again, I don't know. I'll have to wait till they grow up a little bit more. But when in comparison to another dwarf, they don't look like they have any dwarf to them, but they're really interesting. They look like what would you say? Almost like the shape of a birdhouse gourd. Very interesting looking tomato with purple stripes. These are some dwarf tomatoes. These are Lucky Swirl, and an interesting thing about this Lucky Swirl is this one's so much different than the rest of them. So I wonder whether or not this is some mixed up seed, or whether or not there's just some destabilization going on, just a throwback. And these are the Khaki Flask greens with the Khaki Flask purples. Same kind of gourd shape tomato, but instead of the purple stripe, it has more of a green stripe to it. And this is another Zudi. This is an experiment I'm doing here. These are Craig's, which were actual dwarfs. Mine are definitely not dwarfs. I thought they might be, but I was incorrect. And got a few in the greenhouse. Sorry, my mess here. But I've got a few in the little greenhouse that I have. And I won't go through them. I'll go through them at a different time. But just keep them in here. I just moved these ones up. Kept them out of the rain. And I kept these ones because these ones are just coming up. And I need them to get a little bit more heat after it had been a little bit cooler here in Florida. And again, you can barely see them now. It's too dark. But these are my tomatoes. I'll probably start another thing of seeds, but then I'll probably be done. So thanks for visiting.